Welcome back. In this segment, we're going to look at executing modules as scripts. Now, when you run a Python modules with Python freeboard within arguments, the code in the module will be executed just as you imported it, but with the dunder name dunder set to dunder main dunder. That means that by adding this code at the end of your module, which is this, you can make the file usable as a script as well as importable module, because the code that passes the command line only runs if the module is executed as the main file. Now, what does that actually mean? So let's look at an example here. Let's see if I can actually bring up the terminal. Okay, so let's look at this and we magnify this. Okay, so let's move to desktop, Python, and then scripts. That's where I store. Where is it? CDs, SCROPs. Okay, so everything is there. All right, the file is actually here. So let's just run Fireball. Now, before we actually run this, let's understand what we're going to execute first of all before we run it. If you look at this, right, we have two defined functions. When you run it, nothing will happen because number one, they are both defined, but we did not activate them. So let's enter, nothing. Okay, so what if I put Python fireball.py and I put, okay, 50. Again, nothing happened. Nothing happened because the function is defined and the 50 here, well, the program does not know where to actually put the 50 to. Hence the reason we have this line of code here that you can actually make use of. So let's just copy this. Copy this. The suggestion here is put it at the back. All right, so let's zoom this. Now, when you actually put a line like this, if dunder name dunder equals to main, what this is actually saying is that when you are writing, executing the scripts, all right, like what we actually were talking about here, executing the script, all right, as the main file, because we are running this as the main file, it will import this function called sys, and then it will take the argument, okay, the first argument that is being provided. Okay, this is index number 1, 0 is the actual name itself. It will take the argument, first argument, and it will run fib, which is this function here. So let's save this and run it and see what happened. So we run it with 50. Okay, notice that indeed fib is being run. Okay, with the so-called 50 is being provided. Okay, so that's the important part here. So what if I actually have another defined function, calculate, or just add num, and we have another input here called object, and then we have object plus 2. Okay, let's just return these, and now instead of this, I'll hashtag it, and we have add num, and we have sys arg v, and we take the first. Okay, let's save this and see what happened. Okay. Okay, so we get this error. Error because it says must be string not integer. Or we get a type error. So we do need to convert this. Okay, and put another bracket at the end, save this and run this again. And well, what happened? Actually, it ran, but the only problem is that it ran this code but never print. Okay, so what we do here is just print object plus 2. We also return it. Okay, so now let's run it one more time and we get 52. Okay, so what have we done? What we've done here is that there are two things. One is that if you import Fibo, right, then you will be able to access it by typing fibo.fib, and that will allow you to access the so-called function built within. But if you want to actually run the fibo as a main script, right, meaning a standalone file as I did here, which is this one here, let me just clear the screen. If I want to run it as a standalone as the main file, I do need to actually have this if thunder name thunder equals to main, so that it actually can be run as a main file with the so-called input arguments being accepted and associated with the functions that you want to run. Notice that whatever we define here is actually going to be the so-called functions that get run. Okay, so that's the important part. All right, so that's really what I want to cover here in terms of executing modules as scripts. When we come back, we'll go into the module search path.